Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. Today I am going to share with you everything I know about pressure canning. I've been pressure canning for a few years now, and it's really nothing to be that scared about. It can be a little bit nerve-wracking because every year I'm a little bit rusty. First doing it, I always reread the manual, even though I've done it for years now. I always reread the manual that comes with the pressure canner just to make sure I know what I'm doing. But we're going to go over all the steps, and by the end of this video, hopefully you'll be confident and ready to go when it comes to pressure canning, because it's really rewarding to be able to can stuff using a pressure canner, stuff that needs to be used under pressure. So with that, let's talk about what kind of foods you would want to use a pressure canner for. So your general water bath canner, which I have back here, basically it's literally just boiling water. And boiling water gets up to 212 degrees Fahrenheit, and it's not hot enough to kill green beans, raw meat, other stuff like that. There's a whole line of things that are not very acidic and which you would want to use a pressure canner for. Anyways, I have the All-American N30 pressure canner, and this will do up to 14 quarts. It'll do 7 on the bottom, and then you put a ring in it and it'll do 7 more. And I think the rings are inside of it actually. So it came with 2 of these, and there is a lip at the bottom here, and the lip goes down, so we put 1 on the bottom. And then we put our quarts in, and then if we need to do a second row, we put the lid on top and stack another row. So basically what we'll do, our jar's ready, and today I'm canning green beans. I already did another video where I walked you step by step through all the steps of canning just green beans. So while I'm going to be canning green beans today, my focus is telling you everything about the pressure canner. So if you're interested in learning how to can green beans, I'll put a link to that video so you can go back and watch it if you would like. Today we're just going to be talking all about pressure canning. So basically it's very simple. See here. The first thing we're going to do is fill the bottom with 2 to 3 inches of water, and that's it. We don't need to cover the jars when we are pressure canning. Yeah, words are weird. We don't need to fully cover the jars because basically we're going to use the steam to get them up the temp. So it's different like water bath canning, where water bath canning you would usually cover the jars with water. With pressure canning, we just need to put a couple inches of water in the bottom. And so I'm going to go ahead and do that now. And then once we get our water in, then we can put our jars in and go from there. So once we get our water jars in and everything is good to go, we are going to lock the lid into place. And with the water that we're going to put in it is going to be very hot, and the jars that we're going to put in it are going to be very hot. Now, once I put the water in, I'm going to be a little bit slow at getting my jars in. So I'm going to go ahead and put this on a very low heat just to keep everything nice and toasty as I continue to fill up the jars, get them all loaded. So that'll keep everything nice and warm and up the temp. What we want to prevent is thermal shock. We don't want to have cold jars going into hot water because the big change in temperature can cause the jars to break, and we don't want that. So we're going to put hot jars in our hot water, and once we fill it up, we're going to put the lid on, and we literally just set it on. There's an arrow. Let's see. So there's an arrow at the top of the lid here, and there's a line here on line. And you literally just set this on top, line them up, and then see how this has like a notch here? I'm just gonna slide it over. And that's all we need to do to get the lid on. And then we take these little things that lock the lid on, and we're going to do, so what you don't wanna do is just go around the canner in a row. You want to do alternating sides. So what I do is I'll do like this one and this one, and we tighten them just till they're like very lightly tight, and then I'll do the next row. So you just want to make sure everything's lined up nice and good, and then we just tighten it all on, and then all right, so then once they're nice and tight, we are ready to go. We'll turn the oven on, get it nice and hot and steaming, and then what's gonna happen is steam is going to start to come out of this. And once it is consistently coming out, that there's no breaks in the steam, because at first it'll just be kind of like and then go away, and then go away. When it is a steady stream of steam, we start counting for 10 minutes. And that kind of releases any extra air that might be inside of the canner, gets everything up to temp. And then once it's a steady stream of steam for 10 minutes, then we put our pressure regulator on. And this is what mine looks like. And then you will refer to the recipe as to how many pounds of pressure. You can either do 5, 10, or 15. And so for green beans, we need 10 pounds of pressure in this thing. So once the 10 minutes is up on the steady steam of stream coming out, we put the 10 on this, and then we let it warm up. And this dial will start to come up, and we wait until it says 10. And then this thing will then also about that time start to jiggle. And it'll jiggle we want it to jiggle 1 to 4 times per minute. If it's constantly jiggling and jiggling a lot more than 4 times a minute, we'll turn the temp down on the stove. And if it's jiggling not even once a minute or hardly once a minute, then I might turn the temp up a little. So we're gonna watch for it to jiggle while we also watch this to make sure that it's maintaining a steady 10 pounds of pressure. So that's kind of just a quick introduction to really all that there is with pressure canning and this particular pressure canner. Now, I do want to say that everything that I'm going to explain to you is regarding this specific pressure canner, but from what I've read, these steps are for most other pressure canners. There is another kind of pressure canner you can get. Now, this is referred to as a weighted gauge pressure canner, and that is the most common pressure canner you can find, and it's the only kind that I happen to be familiar with. There's another kind of pressure canner called a dial gauge pressure canner. And from what I understand with those is you have to send the dials away once a year to be tested for accuracy. That's not something I'm really interested in doing, and they don't really seem that common when you search for them online. So I don't really know how popular they are. I just am aware of them and just wanted to mention that this is a weighted gauge pressure canner, and that's what we'll be doing. Now, everything that I am doing, I go by the manual that comes with it, which is extremely important because yours could be a little bit different. So make sure, and if yours is newer, the instructions might be a little bit different. Anyways, so without further ado, I am going to go ahead and walk you through the entire process of using this pressure canner. So the first thing I'm going to do is undo it here. And we'll set the pressure regulator aside. All right, let's get going. All right, so this is just my pot of boiling water for when I go to process the jars of green beans. And so the first thing I am going to do is I put the lid, one of the lids down on the bottom of it here. And then I'm going to pour 2 to 3 inches, and I apologize, let me zoom out here. This is hard to do with holding, here we go. Okay, sorry. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is put 2 to 3 inches of water in the bottom, and I'm actually going to err on the side of 2 inches. It seems like lately if I get close to 3, it gets a little bit too high. Let me check that. probably about an inch. So I'm gonna go ahead and put some more in. And I'm gonna go grab some more water because that's not enough. All right, and that's about 2 inches, maybe a smidge over 2 inches. So I would call that pretty perfect. And the next thing I'm going to do is just turn this onto a very low temperature, just to keep it warm while I can the green beans. And then this is my hot water for putting in the jars for green beans. And this is my water bath canner that we are not using today. It's just gonna hang out here while we not use it. Okay. So right now I am just setting everything out to can the green beans. We need our green beans, a spatula to get air bubbles out, a ladle for hot water, salt, and zinc. And like I said, I did a video step by step on how I did all of this. So if you're interested in that, I will link it so you can check it out. But yeah, we're ready to go. So basically, I am just going to follow the recipe for canning green beans and set them in the warm water for the canner. And then that's kind of it. And then I will come back whenever it's time to go from there. So I just washed these in the dishwasher. They're nice and steamy and hot. So these will work perfect for what I need to do. And I need to grab my flannel. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do, bring this a little bit closer, is fill it with green beans. And I like to pack our jars pretty full. I'm excited to try these new lids I got. They are by a company called 4 Jars, and it's my first time using them. They had really good reviews online, and I've seen other people use them that I trust, and so I thought I would go ahead and give them a try. They were a lot cheaper to buy online and have shipped than it would be to go to my local big box store and buy name brand lids. And something I forgot to do was in my green beans, in my recipe, I put a teaspoon of salt and 1 zinc tablet. The zinc keeps the beans looking green. Both of these are optional, but we like the flavor of the salt and we like the color from the zinc. And then we are going to leave 1 inch of headspace. And then on here, it has a little measures. So we'll see here. Up to the bottom line is 1 inch. So pretty good. And then I'm going to go through and get out any air bubbles. I like to go through a couple times, just make sure we get them all out real good. And then since I'm going to start putting jars in the pressure canner, when I put this first jar in, I'm going to turn the temp up just a little bit, get it up to like a little bit of a hotter temp, not so much low. But anyhow, put the lid on, and we're going to screw this on fingertip tight and set it in. And now that that first one's in, I am going to turn it up just a little bit and keep it nice and warm in there. And then we'll just keep repeating until it's full. My goal was to do 52 quarts of green beans this year. 1 for every week of the year, because that's about how much we eat. And we are up to 30 right now. And I'm very excited about that, because that is about double what I normally get. And a lot closer to my goal of 52. I don't know if we'll get 52 this year. But we, I would say, are 1 batch away from getting there after this. So I think I'm gonna have 10 to 11 quarts today. All right, so right now I have 5 jars in there. I could move these around to get 7, but I know I'm not gonna have 14 quarts today. So you know, if I'm lucky, actually I better go ahead and put 6 on the bottom. There's a slim chance I might have 11, which would be 6 on the bottom and 5. So what I'll do is I'll put one in the middle there, and then we'll put the lid on. Oops, a little steamy there. All right, and now I'm ready to put the last one on the bottom here. Sorry, this is like hard to do with one hand and trying not to. Okay, go ahead and grab this other lid here, and we're going to put it so that this lip part is down, and put it in like that, and ready to start a new row. The next thing I'm going to do is when I put these in, I am going to stagger where they were from the bottom so that I don't have 2 directly on top of each other. So I can see that there's a can down below there and one there. So I'm going to set this one kind of in between the 2. All right, and that's gonna be it for this canner. We are officially out of green beans. So the next thing I'm going to do is put the lid on. Sorry, I'm gonna try to get a good angle for you guys here. All right, so this arrow is lined up with that. These notches are underneath that. These are all just safety features. And then you just kind of look around and just make sure it's all, you know, looking like it's lined up good. Next, I'm going to screw these on, and then we are going to do alternating sides. And just make sure it's all, everything's lined up nice and neat and good. And do this side. And all of this line up like that. All right, the next thing I'm going to do is crank up the temp. We're gonna get that hot and get this, make sure it's nice and lined up straight on the burner. All right, and now we are just going to keep an eye on this and wait for a steady stream of steam to be coming out of it. You can see that a little bit of moisture is coming out now. It's going to take a few minutes, but we'll just keep an eye on it and wait for that steady stream, and then we will set a timer for 10 minutes. All right, so it's been a few minutes. I literally was going to do a little bit of stuff and I didn't get far. So it's kind of hard to see. I don't know if you can see it better if I put something behind it to see that steady stream of steam coming out. But it is coming out, so we're gonna start the timer now for 10 minutes. And then that is when we will put the regulator on, and we'll go from there. It's been 10 minutes, so now we are going to put the pressure regulator on. And mine calls for 10 pounds of pressure, so I'm going to put the 10 down. And we're just going to let it sit there now and watch it. We are waiting for it to jiggle. And we also then too want to make sure that this stays And there we have our first jiggle. And another jiggle. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the temp down because it's getting over 10 degrees or 10 pounds. And now we wait 25 minutes. And this is basically all we're doing. We're just making sure that this stays at around 10 pounds. And we're making sure that this, in the meantime, also jiggles 1 to 4 times a minute. Right now, it hasn't really been jiggling that much. So we'll wait, you know, maybe 20 more seconds, and if it doesn't jiggle again, I'll turn the temp back up. It was going a little crazy at first, so I turned it down, and I might have turned it down a little bit too far. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it up just a smidge. Right, so it just jiggled, and then I will show you what 1 to 4 jiggles kind of look like for me. It seems like when I find the happy spot, so that counts as 1. It seems like when I find the happy spot, I get maybe 1 to 2 jiggles per minute. Rarely does it, you know, jiggle 4 times a minute. I say that and then watch it'll be jiggling every 15 seconds here, but yeah, about once a minute, maybe, you know, maybe twice a minute is what I usually get. But this is what, you know, 1 to 4 a minute sound like. And so we will continue to watch this, and when the 25 minutes is up, we'll be back. All right, everyone, it's been 25 minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and just turn the temp off, and we are just going to let it sit. The first thing we're going to look for is that this goes all the way down to 0. And as soon as it goes down to 0, we will remove this. And it is important to remove it as soon as it goes down to 0, because if it sits there after 0, it can create a negative pressure inside, kind of like seals shut, and it'll be really hard to get the lid off. So all we have to do is wait for it to go to 0, take this off, and then we will continue to let it sit and cool down. At that point, we can take the lid off. All right, so the regulator, or not the regulator, the dial is officially at 0. So I'm going to use an oven mitt to take the regulator off. And then we are gonna wait 2 minutes, and then we'll take the lid off. And from turning the temperature off until now has been 36 minutes for it to get all the way to 0. All right, it's been 2 minutes since I took the regulator off. So now I am going to unscrew these things, and I'm just gonna start with one, start with the other, and just kind of loosely loosen them all before I start just taking them off. Make it nice and equal, and then we'll start dropping them. All right, and then when we open it, we want to just open it away from us so that any steam will go the opposite direction and not in our face. Here we go.
Mama.
What, buddy?
We're supposed to go to Daddy.
We are. I'm going to take these jars out and then we'll leave. Okay? Just give me 1 minute. So now we are just going to take the jars and set them on a towel on the counter. The towel will help prevent thermal shock as well. This is also something I do with water bath canning. And I always think it's neat when you take them out of the pressure canner because they're still boiling inside. Alright, and then I'm going to get something like a fork to lift up on the lid inside. Just kind of hard to grab with the oven mitt. And there we have it. We ended up with 9 quarts of green beans. I hope you all enjoyed pressure canning with me today. I hope you learned something new, and I hope you saw that it's really not that scary. It's really easy to do. It's just following the few steps that are critical to follow and important. But yeah, other than that, that's all we have for today. Thank you so much for joining me, and we will see you in the next one. Have a great day. Bye. And in case you're wondering what the next video is, this might be a hint for you. I'm not quite sure what we're gonna do with those yet, but I'm pretty sure these are getting turned into sauce. So stay tuned, and we'll see you maybe next Friday. Bye.